like Avatar or
Right.
whatever. But it gets across the point that it really is this like faceless entity that's kind of this algorithm that's affecting what's being put in front of you, and it's crazy. It's crazy to think about it.
I had kind of a weird thought when I was watching this documentary, and I don't know if there's any real substance to this, but I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens. Do you think that social media has the potential to kind of prevent people from either changing or swaying people into becoming different versions of themselves than they would be, say, without it? And what I mean by that is, okay, take all the things that you're interested in right now. Let's say you're interested in Star Wars, you're interested in sports cars, and you're interested in podcasts. Well, that's what you're interested in right now. And people generally change, people's interests change, their hobbies and activities change. If you're constantly being bombarded by those topics on social media because that's what the algorithm thinks you like right now and that's who you are right now, do you think that by doing that, by creating these algorithms that try to pinpoint exactly who you are and exactly what you like, they put you in a box
Hmm.
and they sort of stereotype you into what you are right this
Yeah, so you
moment,
you
and then
never
your
grow
social
beyond it.
media, right, your social media prevents you from maybe being able to see things outside of that you would have ventured into had they not maybe put you in such a box with this algorithm.
Ooh, that's hard. I think there is some validity to that. I absolutely do. I think that there is some mind-numbing aspect to it that social media would
Right.
inadvertently do. But I also think that depending on what age you are, I think as adults or as just human beings, as you become an adult, there is this level of growth that you can't stop it. Your brain as a human is wired to change. It's wired for experiences. And I think especially with the age of social media, I think people get bored more easily, and I think that kind of stuff, I guess it depends. Like maybe it will make you love the 1997 Corvette because you remember having that put in front of you over and over. You
Right.
like this, you specifically like Genesis. Jesus, I am so dating myself. 1997 Corvette and Genesis. That's Phil
The
Collins.
classic
Yeah.
Oldsmobile, the one with the extra large trunk and
I think that there are some subliminal things that are just going to attach themselves to your psyche, but I don't think they're going to be long-term formative things. I think that it's going to you're as a human, I think you're just going to want new experiences, and social media is kind of that way of getting those new experiences without really leaving the comfort of your home. So, I think it's a yes and no. It's kind of hard to tell.
well, what about for the younger generation whose lives are so much more shaped by social media? Do you think that it's possible that we're going to see kids, Gen Z and beyond, who maybe are not so much themselves and are more so who the algorithms behind the social media platforms think that they are? And
Yeah.
they may be very close, but you could have a lot of people with some weird identity crises kind of things where they feel like they need to fit a certain mold because maybe somebody wants to be an influencer on Instagram for a while, and then that becomes their life and they become so entrenched that social media has such a tight grip on them that they don't really end up breaking out of that to grow and change into something else that they maybe would have become. I think it's possible that
Yeah.
you're going to see people who, again, are not maybe their true versions of themselves, but are who Facebook has pinned you to be, or who Instagram has pinned you to be.
Which is a fair, like, I think that's fair to ask. I think there's two things there that kind of that you brought up in my mind. One is that you could very easily get into, and this is going back to kind of the last question too. You could very easily get into the weird, almost like the giver situation, where
Mm,
everybody is being taught to believe a certain way,
right.
and if social media becomes this larger entity instead of Instagram, Facebook, all of these dozens of apps, if somehow one app becomes this like overlord thing, where like it is the source of information, kind of in the same way that Google is, but on a much more focused sense, like maybe it's something that's manipulated by the government, which is terrifying to think about. But if everybody is exposed to one social media and it becomes a part of culture, I think then you run the risk of everybody becoming kind of like a zombie, and not really in that they're mindless or anything, but in the sense that the opinion of everybody kind of becomes the same. Um,
Yeah, exactly. Because it's all based on who has the biggest influence on social media. And when you've got people on YouTube like, Logan Paul or whatever, who's got 20 million subscribers, 200 million subscribers, whatever the number is, these people become superstars.
Mm-hmm.
These people become social icons, and people, they have a following almost in like a cult sense.
Yeah.
These people that try to kind of emulate their lives after these people.
Yeah.
And so they're not really them. They're trying to kind of become this version of them that they think other people are going to accept more. And I think that problem has always been there. People always try to kind of be who they think other people are going to like. And I think that could be exponentially worse in the age where social media is there from the time you're 10 years old.
Yeah. And to answer the other part of your question, though, I think that could social media lead somebody away from being what they were meant to be? It's kind of like asking, like maybe 400 years ago, the world's best golfer could have been born, but they were born 400 years ago, and so we'll never know. I think it's kind of like, you're not to say that like fate is a thing or anything, but like I think that what you're meant to do is the thing that you're going to be meant to do, and
Right. What you're meant to do is what you end up doing.
Yeah,
Because that's
exactly.
what has been done.
right.
As crazy as that sentence is, what you're meant to do is what you end up doing, because
Right.
that's what's
because
been
you're
done.
and not
Wow.
because it's like fate or anything, but because you're a product of your environment. Because like the whole fate thing, that's a whole other conversation that like gets really weirdly spiritual and everything. But when focused on like the social media aspect, yeah, I think that hey, you get away from that. That's a battery. Yeah, I just think that it's a little too much, I think, to say that social media will stop you from becoming something else, because I think that there's a lot of other aspects that go into that.
Yeah. Now, going back to the social dilemma itself.